Hello everyone. I'm going to go over Active Directory domain services and what is Active Directory. Um, I think in order to work with Active Directory, you need to have a good understanding of Active Directory. So by going through the introduction on what Active Directory actually is and just dissecting some of the terms, we can get a better idea of it. So let's get started. The first thing I want to look at here is it does mention that this only applies to certain versions of Windows Server. I noticed Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 are not on here, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so Active Directory is a directory, or a directory is a hierarchical structure that stores information about objects on the network. So let's break down what objects mean. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick Google search about objects in Active Directory. And I'll start by writing this down. So we have some notes here. Okay. So an object is a resource within a network, such as user accounts, passwords, computers, applications, printers, file and folder shares, security groups, and their permissions. Okay. So let's go ahead and add that to our notes here. So we can keep that in the back of our minds when they do reference the term objects. We want to make sure that we have that definition down. So a lot of these things, user accounts, passwords. So uh, and let's see if we can get Microsoft's. Okay, so there's 12 types of objects in Active Directory, which is also a very good resource to have because some things we may not know are objects. Um, List of Active Directory objects, users, contact, printer, computer, group, OU. Okay, so here's the 12 objects that they listed. So I'm also going to add that to our list for objects. Let's go ahead and bold that real quick. Keep it simple. Okay, so I seem to have a pretty good understanding of what an object is at this point, so let's move on. So a directory is a hierarchical structure that stores information about objects on the network. Objects meaning printers, computers, shared folders, groups, users, contacts, domain, site. So very, very broad. A directory service, such as Active Directory domain services, provides the methods for storing directory data and making this data available to network users and administrators. For example, ADDS stores information about user accounts such as names, passwords, phone numbers, and so on, and enables other authorized users on the same network to access this information. Active Directory stores information about objects on the network and makes this information easy for administrators and users to find and use. Active Directory uses a structured data store as the basis for logical hierarchical organization of directory information. This data store, also known as a directory, contains information about Active Directory objects. These objects typically include shared resources such as servers, volumes, printers, and the network user and computer accounts. For more information about the Active Directory data store, see Directory data store. Okay, so Active Directory uses a structured data store as the basis for a logical hierarchical organization of directory information. So let's take a look at the directory data store from what Microsoft has. The Active Directory service uses a data store for all directory information. This data store is often referred to as the directory. The directory contains information about objects such as users, groups, computers, domains, organizational units, and security policies. This information can be published for use by users and administrators. Okay. All right, so directory data is stored in the ntds.dit file on the domain controller. It is recommended that you store this file on an NTFS partition. So that's very important. And for a lot of people that don't know what an NTFS partition is, let's go ahead and break that down. I'm going to add that to my notes as well. So NTFS partition. So I'm going to add that side note. AD needs to be installed on an NTFS partition. I'm sorry. NTDS dot dit needs to be on an NTFS partition. Okay. Now, what is an NTFS partition? That's Quora. I'm not going to use that one. So a lot of you maybe have been on disk management. You can choose what kind of file system you want to use. NTFS partition is generally, I'll go to the Wikipedia page of it, but new technology file system developed by Microsoft. Yeah, so it superseded the file allocation table, which is the preferred system on Windows, but I believe that is old technology. I'm not going to get too much into the details about the differences and stuff. I guess the biggest takeaway is that we want to make sure that the ntds.dit file, which holds all of the Active Directory objects that are stored, are in this file. So it has schema data, configuration data, domain data, and application data. So this is really important. So one of the things I'm going to add here, this is a very important topic because we want to make sure that this is intact. So ntds dot dit file. So I'm going to copy this real quick and just go to Google again and break this down a little further. There's a pretty good image that I've come across here that kind of shows all the partitions. That I'm going to add to my notes here. And we're going to save this as Active Directory. So go to the desktop, wherever that is, and save it as Active Directory. And I can upload these notes as well in the video so everyone has them. So basically what we have so far are the objects, which is what Active Directory is based upon, ntds.dit, which is a which is a file which all this information is stored upon. So seems like a pretty important file to have. Um, so I'm going to continue with this lecture here. Okay, and you guys can look into these NTDS. I'm sure there's like the location of NTDS, which is under the C drive of Windows. You can find it there if you're on a server with Active Directory. These are some of the credentials and things, a lot of different information on the internet. So let's keep moving forward. And these are the data that it stores. So NTDS has domain data. So let's kind of circle back here. So it is recommended that you store the file on NTDS. Okay. Okay. For more information about the tool used to manage the Active Directory database and log files, see files in NTDS util. Let's take a look at this real quick. It's a command line tool that provides management facilities for Active Directory, database maintenance of Active Directory, manage and control single master operations, and remove metadata left behind, domain controllers that were removed from the network without being properly uninstalled. This tool is intended for use by experienced administrators. So it looks like this is a tool to perform maintenance on Active Directory. To view the command syntax, click a command authoritative, restore configurable settings, domain management files, LDAP policies, metadata cleanup rules, security account management, semantic database analysis, DSRM password, group membership evaluation. So there's a lot of really good information on this site. Okay, so we're going to take a break here, and I'll come back to finishing this topic right here as we move along on the intro of Active Directory.